when we make this analysis of Kompany's first season at Bayern, it's not only a Kompany problem either. The last 5 years, Bayern have not been in a final of either the Cup or the Champions League. Let's compare to last season. Points-wise, not that much better. Champions League, they got to the semi-final last season under Tuchel. So can we assess within this first season of Kompany that there has been progress made?
What will save Kompany somehow, or I say somehow because this is the standard of Bayern, is that they will win the league. So they got 69 points now. If they win all the 5 rest games, they've got 84 points. Bayer Leverkusen got 90 last season. That's fact. That's a math. They have lost to Villa 1-0. They lost 4-1 to Barcelona. They lost 3-0 to Feyenoord. They had a draw against Celtic. They lost at home against Inter. That is also fact.
Hi and welcome to the Fussball channel. I'm your host, Markus Fjørtoft, and as always joined by co-host Jan Fjørtoft. Now, before we go into today's episode, we've got something special for you. We've teamed up with Classic Football Shirts to give away an iconic jersey to one of our listeners.
It's super easy to enter. You just have to subscribe to the Fussball channel and then comment on our last video. And the competition will go all the way till next Friday.
Classic Football Shirts are one of the best in the game when it comes to iconic kits. And this time around, we've got the Germany 2012 Euros jersey, the one that they came all the way to the semi-final, lost to Italy when Mario Balotelli scored those iconic goals. Dad, I guess, what's your favorite football jersey?
Well, first of all, when Germany comes to a competition and lose, they always lose against Italy. That has to be said. And there are some classical shirts in those games, of course. I'm born in 1967. So when I was interested in football, that every shirt is classical for me because it is from the good old days. And the first game I watched ever in my life that I can remember was the 1974 World Cup final. And Germany played, West Germany, played against Holland. And they had that clean, just white and black German shirt. They came a retro version of it this season, and I just love that shirt.
Oh, it's such a nice one, isn't it? We have to try and get a hold of that one as well. But for now, it's super easy to enter to get into the competition for our 2012 Germany jersey. Just subscribe to the Fussball channel on YouTube, comment your favorite shirt, what have you, and we'll pick a lucky winner at the end of next week. And Dad, we have a bit of a review to go through. It's been a busy week of football, a lovely bit of football with games going everywhere. I mean, yesterday with the Europa League, that was a fantastic showing. We had the Champions League. But from a German lens as well, which we will go into, it's the first time since 2021 that there's no German teams in a European Cup semi-final. First time since 2021. But let's just start with overall, I guess, reflections. What stood out to you? Where do we even begin to summarize something like this?
And it's the first time ever that a Norwegian team will go further in the European Cups than the German Cup. Border Glimt knocking out Lazio on penalty. What a game that was, by the way. But so they're playing Tottenham now. I think we have to do a special on that one as well, Marcus. There are so many specials coming up now. A club from the Arctic Circle on AstroTurf, nearly where Santa Claus is living, is playing a semi-final at the European Cups. But as you were saying, two disappointing nights for German teams. As for Dortmund, they lost it, of course, at Barcelona. They could have done it if it wasn't for that. Unbelievable to say they could have turned a 4-0 around, but after Ben Sabini's own goal in the 54th minute, there was no more game for them, although big respect to Guirassy scoring a hat-trick in a Champions League quarter-final. Then you had Eintracht Frankfurt. I was there at Tottenham, of course. And then yesterday, a bit unlucky, I must say. It was Santos, the goalkeeper, made a penalty on Maddison. It was a penalty. He didn't want to do it, but those penalties are given. And although Eintracht was building up a big pressure, you have to say, even with my Eintracht Frankfurt heart, that over 2 games, I must say that Tottenham deserved this. And it's also credit to Postecoglou that at the time when he needed a result most for the club, for himself, staying in the job, they managed to do that. 2 good performances by Tottenham Hotspur, and then Tottenham was at the next round, and Eintracht Frankfurt were out. And then, Marcus, I guess the big talking point, like it always is for Germany, is that always what happened to Bayern Munich.
It is Bayern Munich, and it is interesting that because in the aftermath of going out, we're beginning now, it's mid-April, beginning to assess Kompany's first season. And what I always find interesting in the analysis of Bayern is Kompany and Bayern exist somewhat separate, but inevitably together in this analysis. Kompany is Bayern's coach, and as such, we review Bayern as a whole. But where Bayern have been for the last few years, with Kompany coming in the context of him being the 5th, 6th choice, it's almost as if, and I don't know how we best approach this, but in the way we analyze Bayern's season, to which degree does Kompany's analysis exist separate? My point being is that Kompany and his relative inexperience compared to other candidates, yes, Alonso is younger as well, I know that, we have to be, I think, a tad bit realistic in terms of what were we really expecting from Bayern this season, and where do historically Bayern exist as an institution in a European competition. And I think within those 2 sort of poles, there is an analysis to be made. But I'm curious how you would approach that, because, and I'll get into some of the details as to like what are the stats like, and all that comes with it, the game performances, but could we have expected more from Bayern this season, all things considered?
I think the key word in your preview of the review is that you have to see this historically. Bayern Munich is a fantastic football club with fantastic results over the years. Okay, there are some emotional thing to it that the Champions League final will be daheim, so at home in Allianz. That is one part to it. But I think that we just have to first start with the maths. And the maths is as follows. What will save Kompany somehow? Or I say somehow because this is the standard of Bayern, is that they will win the league. So they got 69 points now. If they win all the 5 rest games, they've got 84 points. Bayer Leverkusen got 90 last season. That's fact. That's a math. Okay. Bayern were also 3rd in the league last season. They will probably, most likely, because Bayer Leverkusen haven't managed to do the big points when Bayern have lost games, lost against Bochum, and they have an Union away, and then you have the 2 results for Leverkusen, losing to Werder Bremen, a draw against Union, on those kind of things. Fair enough. So say they will win the league, and then Kompany, that is a plus for him. Bayern were 3rd in the last season, 3rd. So we just have to remind people of that. But historically, this is Bayern Munich. And I had to write up, when I put my glasses on, Marcus, I'm going into serious stuff. I just see the games that a Bayern team, and again, I say this historically because this is Bayern. So in Europe, they have lost to Villa 1-0. They lost 4-1 to Barcelona. They lost 3-0 to Feyenoord. They had a draw against Celtic. They lost at home against Inter. That is also a fact. So we have to put this discussion into 2. One is the facts, and secondly is the emotions, the politics. What do you have all around the club? Let's put it this way: the head of sports, Max Eberl, if you pick Vincent Kompany as your coach, you want him to succeed. I mean, that is fact as well. So, but Bayern is all about everything in and around the club. And you could say that they have done what they have to do, is to win the league. But there are different ways of winning the league. And I think what will save him is that I don't think Bayern need another discussion around the coach. I don't think there are too many alternatives. I can't see Alonso doing that. Alonso will have City and Real Madrid ahead of Bayern anyway, I think. And Vincent Kompany he's just destined to succeed in terms of the credibility of Bayern Munich. So, but I guess, Markus, we can go into details in and around the club, but why should Vincent Kompany do well in Europe? I just put it out there. Why should it? What has he done in his coaching career? Now I'm going to be brutal. What has he done in his conference to do in his career to do well in Europe? He hasn't done anything. No. He's been with Burnley. He's been with Anderlecht. But that's it.
But we knew that when he got hired, and that is the point. When you make an appointment like that, you have to make it with the recognition that you're not going to win the Champions League the first year, even though it's Bayern Munich. I think it's what is important here, and we can go back depending on how far we want to go back. And when you had the Julian Nagelsmann, and you're thinking, okay, the long-term project of that, the young manager who can be a long-term option for Bayern in terms of results, the culture implemented. But we have to see it in the context of, let's go back to the Champions League triumph a few years back. The last 5 years, Bayern have not been in a final of either the Cup or the Champions League. German Cup and Champions League, by the way. So that's why I think when we make this analysis of Kompany's first season at Bayern, it's not only a Kompany problem either, that we have to see this year as a year in transition. And then it's a matter of, okay, how long can Bayern afford to be a season transition? And it's interesting then is, okay, let's compare to last season. Points wise, not that much better. Champions League, they got to the semi-final last season under Tuchel. So can we assess within this first season of Kompany that there has been progress made, that Bayern is moving into a new direction with new contract extensions, with a new type of players? And I guess that is where perhaps we want to see it from, as far as, okay, this is what it was, and this is where Kompany's in. And I guess, how do you see it in terms of, has there been progress made?
Well, that's why it's so important that we define what we talk about progress in terms of the facts that are out there. Good point you did with Tuchel. He took them to the semi-final.
Yeah.
And you nearly forgot that. I nearly forgot that.
And almost beat Real Madrid.
Exactly. Yeah. And you forget that, and you think that, well, there's so much progress done at that club. But I think that is to remind us, but we have to remind us what Bayern is. And I think that is what I try always to do, because this is Bayern. This is the expectations that are at that club. And what I think will save him is the emotion part of it, because you don't want to fire a good lad, a great character. I mean, Vincent Kompany, in terms of being the ambassador, in terms of being there for Bayern, in terms of the analysis he does after game and all those kind of things, he is top notch. And that doesn't surprise us, because he was like this as a player. So that doesn't surprise us at all. So I think that would also save him is that the discussion in and around Bayern going into the summer will be around the finances. And I've said that. I think there is there's a bomb kind of around there, that something will explode at one point. I also, a small thing that I registered after the game, now they're talking about the league and the Club World Cup. So now there's another tournament they can win. Yes, so a lot of money is involved as well. But now it's important for Bayern to say, well, listen, we can win the Club World Cup, which is fair. But it's a bit like what used to be, and when people won that Super World Cup kind of one game thing, that it was always important afterwards. So I think that you have to understand Bayern to kind of do the best kind of assessment of his season. And Bayern, I can see that. I can see also we both closely follow the analysis of our colleagues and all of my former colleagues, Lothar Matthäus and Didi Hamann. It was quite interesting to see that they went in different directions. Lothar said, okay, this is what we can expect. this is Bayern as they are today. That's good. Okay, I'm simplifying now. Didi Hamann say this is not good enough. Okay, Didi Hamann often says that, but I understand. Yeah, but he had, to be fair to him, he had good arguments following his main argument in terms of how they and if we can, Marcus, maybe we can go a bit deeper into the 3-4 issues as Bayern are struggling with.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we look at some of the key takeaways from this as a season as a whole, we have to, and I think that's why it's interesting going into this summer, because you have Ebel, who spent a lot of money extending contracts while also
lot of money,
which to be fair to him, I think you have to make in terms of looking at the profiles of a Musiala, of a Davis, of a Kimmich, a future captain, which you have to make while the pressure from above is lower your costs, while it's also renewing a team. So it's and this is, I guess, what you're saying in terms of things brewing, in terms of where we're going, because there's so many moving parts. And what I was going to say is, in terms of then the recruitment, where does that look like? Okay, Florian Wirtz, that's one thing. And then you look at the stats in terms of
let's just stop there. Let's just stop there. Let's take point for point, because it's interesting to see. Okay, you're right. They had to extend the contracts of a Kimmich, future leader, although he didn't play well over the 2 games against Inter. Future leader of the club. Musiala, the face of the club, one of the most exciting players in the world, and the face of Bayern for years to come. Davis, they put themselves in a position that they could go for free. I mean, they had to kind of get their value back and so on. But they also need to sell players. And the main sales object of the club was Goretzka. Good attitude, German international. Every club needed Goretzka in their team. And he's turning to be one of the best. So I wouldn't be surprised if they have to extend his contract as well at one point, because now he has had a great season. He'll be wanted. So you have Gnabry, you have Coman, you have all these kind of things. So let's see if they can get some transfer fee of them. They're hoping for Mattis Tell. That is apparently, and I think that is good news for them, that Tottenham come to the semi-final. Tell is playing. Tell is there. Around 60 million euro. And then you have the money of Club World Cup. I will just end this point from my side. You can be very, what should I say, cynical about it. Do we want Florian Wirtz at Bayern? Of course Bayern want him. But is that what they need?
Exactly.
I mean, a defense that is terrible. And I say terrible on this standard of Bayern Munich. The way they conceded these, like the Bild-Zeitung called this the 3 horror minutes against Inter. That is fact, that they had 3 horror minutes, 2 corners, 2 goals for Inter. Dyer scored a goal. Dyer is a great lad. I love his interview. Yeah. I loved him when he was in Tottenham. But is that the standard of Bayern Munich chasing for a Champions League win? I just put it out there. So should you use then 130, 140, 150 million euro buying Florian Wirtz when your defense is leaking? I'm not sure about that strategic position.
No. And exactly. And these are the decisions they have to make when we're talking about a rebuild. If you're spending money on Florian Wirtz, that is a lot of money. And you have to, we love Florian Wirtz, a generational talent, a future Ballon d'Or winner. But nonetheless, and you look at that, 48 goals against in 46 games across this season, not good enough. You can extend that criticism of Eric Dyer. We both like him in terms of the character that he is. But you can look at that in terms of the 50 million euro you spent on Kim. Kim hasn't been good enough. If you're expecting him to be a leader, you're expecting him to be the consistent force in the middle. As of right now, that's Upamecano. And people are saying, well, we miss Upamecano. And we remember the conversations around Upamecano and Kim throughout this season as well. The last thing about Bayern also is, over the course of these games, they scored enough goals. They scored goals against Inter Milan. Inter Milan have barely conceded goals in the Champions League. So in terms of that achievement is a good one at that. But they have lost their kind of killer instinct in terms of when they equalized against Inter, conceding right after, going up in the lead in the second leg, conceding 2 goals, the horror minutes. Dortmund, Bochum, for that matter, there's something there, and whether it's mentality, where there's something that has been lost as well, and that is not the Bayern that we know. And so it is, yeah, there's a lot of question marks still, I think, remain in terms of what will this Bayern team feel like going into next season. And that comes to do with the types of players you have as well.
And as we are landing this, Marcus, the episode, as you're seeing, I'm in a cross-country outfit, so I have to take advantage of the sun here and get myself out doing some cross-country skiing. But I just want to end that, Marcus, because I think you're spot on. But you have to look for margins. This is margins. If you compare with the other teams, and there is no problem to be a devil's advocate. It's hard to go all the way to the Champions League. I've been saying that for Marcus for weeks, that I thought Inter will knock out Bayern. I said that from day one. Remember, I'm not saying I'm a great analyst. I just knew it because the margins were not there. If you compare that with Inter, you got Martinez in forward position. You have Thuram, you have Anatovic, you have Çalhanoğlu, you have all those kind of potential match winners. If you compare that with Bayern, they got Harry Kane, and I'm a bit afraid, or I'm a bit worried about that strategy that you were talking about. So what happened if Kane was injured? Who's going to play up front? What happened if Kane doesn't score? There are games he's not scoring. So I don't understand that discussion. You have to have good strikers. You have to have potential match winners in your team. You can say Leroy Sané, Gnabry, Coman, they are potential match winners. Musiala sowieso, he's a fantastic player. He didn't play now. Unlucky, of course. You can also be devil's advocate and say Liverpool are out. They're not even there. In Manchester City are out of the Champions League. So there's no problem for Bayern if they want to be devil's advocate and say that we're okay. And that's fair. We're just discussing now, how will Bayern be the best team in the world again? Because that is the standard of Bayern Munich. And being the best team in the world, I might say it's not to win the Club World Cup, that is to win the Champions League, because that is the tightest competition, the toughest competitions of them all. So if my last words, Marcus, will be that if you compare that with the other teams in the Champions League, I think that assessment is the right one to see. What would you learn from Arsenal? They don't even have a striker, and they're there. All the best, by the way, to go through. We'll have a special episode when Marcus will have his wedding at the same time of the Champions League. That's going to be a special episode.
This is one special episode for you.
This is a special episode. Don't tell your wife. That is point number 2. Then you got PSG, who has been fantastic as a collective. They have so many young, talented players. They have a Luis Enrique who has won the Champions League, who knows the deal. I saw some stats, Marcus, if I may say, the last 6 years, PSG has been in the semi-final except 2 seasons, and that were the 2 seasons when Neymar, Mbappe, and Messi played up front together. Okay, then you got Barcelona with all the floats of talents, with the Lewandowski, with the Yamal, all these fantastic players in there, and then you got Inter, who got this cynical kind of structured team with Simone Inzaghi, who is one of the tactical foxes in our business. So what I'm saying is, these are the teams that you will compare yourself with, and Bayern got to do that discussion. Put those 10 points together and see where is this green advantage Bayern and what is the red advantage the other teams.
And we are having this discussion about Bayern, comparing them to the mighty force that they've been in Europe. The last time we can remember them being that was under Hansi Flick. And Hansi Flick, that I want to just mention him because he's German. He was, the last job he had was as Germany head coach, and he was Bayern coach, as I mentioned. But I just wanted to get your overall thoughts on Hansi Flick, because my sense of Hansi Flick is that he's tended to be a bit, if not underestimated, a bit maybe disrespected in a way because of how his last job went with Germany, where suddenly we are starting to assess not only the coach but also the person. But when I look at the job that he's doing at Barcelona, and it's an episode all entirely in terms of the situation at Barcelona with the finances and whatnot, but the context was Xavi saying, good luck to whoever takes over for me, because there will be a lot of suffering. And as of right now, Barcelona are still in the chance of a treble. They're 4 points in the league. They're in the Copa del Rey final. They're in the semi-final of the Champions League for the first time in 6 years. They're the second highest scoring team in the Champions League historically that have played over 10 games. Second highest per game. The highest scoring was Bayern 2019-2020 season under Flick as well. My point being is we're seeing a manager, a head coach, that is having a real impact on the game, and I think it goes a bit under the radar.
Well, fair. And remember, when we'll take this forward, remember Vincent Kompany was the 6th choice of Bayern.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have to understand our story. Hansi Flick was one of the candidates before Kompany, and Max Eberl didn't call him back. That can hunt you, and you know that will hunt also Eberl in his position. Hansi Flick is he's a student of the game. He played a second fiddle in the German national team for years. That's why it was so disappointing for him that he didn't succeed with the German national team. But he was fantastic at Bayern. And yes, you're right. He is underestimated because he is a nice lad. He's not your typical Mr. Average kind of profile, kind of coaching type, if you know what I'm saying. Last time I saw him, and I said that in the episode before, was in a fitness room in Manchester. We were both training. We were talking about the game, and he was in He was in England studying English football. He's a studier of the game. The job he's done at Barcelona is fantastic. But I will also say that if we put that into what Barcelona, do I think Barcelona will win the Champions League? I'm a bit in doubt, because he needs to have top games to do that. You saw that against Dortmund. That is suddenly what can happen to Barcelona. That won't happen to Inter. That won't happen to PSG now at this stage of the season. They had that in the beginning. They didn't play so well, Luis Enrique's team. But Hansi Flick, with that high-standing line, that as a Barca fan, they must be so worried. But wow, the talents he's having there, Marcus, is fantastic. So they need to have a top game. Do I think that Inter is the worst draw they can have? Yes, I can, because Simone Inzaghi will study them, and he will find a way with that high line. Having said that, in terms of football entertainment, you want Barcelona to go through, although I've tipped Inter to win the Champions League, but you want them to go through with all the talents they have. One of my favorites, Robert Lewandowski. You have Yamal. You have a midfield of young talent that is unbelievable. So that's going to be a very interesting semi-final. And Hansi Flick, I don't think he's underestimated by the great football leaders of the world, because they see what they see based on the stats you're having. So they see what he can do. And everyone who has worked with Hansi Flick will give him the biggest compliment as a person, as a leader, and as a coach. So we love Champions League. I think that has to be a conclusion.
that is probably the easiest way to conclude this episode. Yeah, I think we look into the semi-finals, look forward to that. There's a lot of other things we can assess, but there is a new Bundesliga round that is here this weekend where we'll assess. Maybe we talk a bit about Dortmund and the glimmer of the old Dortmund that we saw in that Champions League win against Barcelona. It was their first loss of the season, so credit to Dortmund for that nonetheless. But that concludes our little European review. Enjoyed that, and then I'll see you again Monday for a little Bundesliga review.
We do, and we went through a whole episode without you talking about your favorite club, Arsenal, going through to the semi-final.
I'm very humble, Dad. I'm very humble.
You're very humble, and we have to find a big screen for that pool party of yours on the Champions League day.
Trust me.
If Arsenal go to the semi-final, just talk to your wedding planner. Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.